how the picks and bans play out for this final time, because Gnar has been big in both of the CLG wins. I want to see if Team EnVy target that. And I also want to point out Aurelion Sol in the first phase, Team EnVy not risking them pulling out that ace up their sleeve in the final game.
I think this also means that EnVy wants to pick a mid laner in the first phase because they don't want Huhi to be in a comfortable mid lane matchup with Aurelion Sol. And that's one thing about it is they don't know the matchups well enough to know what he considers to be a good matchup against it.
Right.
So they just banned it away.
Huhi's like the only person in the world that knows what that champion does.
Yeah.
And right now, they've left up Kalista, which has been banned by Team EnVy every single game. That has been what has replaced the Aurelion Sol ban. And Counterlogic Gaming, even though they swapped to red side, ban exactly the same things. This is something I love about this patch, is that red side bans are pretty much whatever you want it to be because there's so many powerful things up right now.
So the Kalista is locked in by EnVy. At the same time, the Gnar is available for Counterlogic Gaming. They're also going to grab that Tristana that's such a popular pick into Kalista itself.
Oh my goodness, so much choice right here. You would think because of the success of the Gnar this series that they might be willing to blind it right now, and the fact that they've been good with Huhi on pretty much everything, but instead, the Gragas is the choice because they have lost to Lyra's Gragas as well, and it's honestly been Omar's best champion.
Yeah, Omar God has shown plenty of times before, even before his LCS stage presence. The Gragas is one of the champions he's proficient on. Not surprised to see them take that, but now EnVy has the opportunity to respond twice.
Now the question is it the... I wasn't going to say Zach. I was thinking Blitzcrank for a Ballista combo before it gets banned out, so you have another hook champion. But
I've never heard it called the Ballista combo before. That's pretty great. I like that.
100% original content from
100% Irene OG. Do not repost. Watermark it.
Made it up right now. No, this is super interesting as well, kind of taking some of CLG's champions from earlier on in the series, but it also changes the scaling on this game.
All right.
Camille and Gnar for the all-in at level 6 when Mega Gnar is down. A lot of power Camille can have in that situation, but then EnVy might lose out a little bit on strong early game because their lanes have been dominant in small part to Lyra being on Gragas or Elise and always having a bunch of lane pressure. That's not going to be the case here.
Right. We even talked about it before where Lyra on Zac does not enable the Lyra gameplay. It does not enable this go in the enemy jungle at level 3, steal away their stuff, flex on the other jungler and steal everything, everything he's got away. It just doesn't work like that with Zac. Lyra is definitely going to have to switch gears a little bit here as Cassiopeia and Morgana, the first two bans of ban phase number 2.
Galio is something that jumps up right now to me. If you run the Galio plus the Camille composition, the Thunderdome, where you can just rock somebody and make sure that there's no way to save them. Yeah, Counterlogic Gaming banning the Cassiopeia is something that kind of makes you lean a little bit more towards that.
And we're in uncharted territory right now. It's the first game CLG has played red side in this series. First game EnVy has been on blue. EnVy is playing 3 champions they haven't played all series long. CLG pulling out the Camille for the first time, and they're actually the ones that ban away the Galio.
And the Morgana ban means Blitzcrank on the table, not banned here. Possible for Hakuo to pick up that hook champion that was banned away from him previously.
Oh, gotta hover Warwick. Can't forget about that ever so important step. You gotta get all the good luck charms you can going into game number 5 in a series like this. CLG, though, have to pick their support and their mid laner. They go for the mid laner.
Yeah, and they're willing to blind pick the mid laner in choice for the last pick support. Shows you how important that bottom lane is right now in this series.
What do you pick against a Corki? You grab a Kassadin or something like that?
Corki's a fairly blind pickable champion. If you wanted to go risky, you can go Kassadin because it's a good laning phase, but the wave clear is low, which is dangerous against a Tristan and Corki.
Absolutely, but Apollo locking in that Nautilus for Hakuo.
Yeah.
We were a bit critical of it. It started off good in the previous game, but then quickly went downhill after they lost control.
Well, mid lane Kog'Maw.
Okay.
Baby, I've been seeing this all the time in solo queue for some reason. I was like, it does a ton of damage.
What even is the build? I feel like I haven't seen mid lane Kog'Maw in forever.
So it's actually varied a whole bunch, but the big thing here is that the mid lane Kog'Maw can actually match the Corki in terms of just auto attack trading and outranges him. Your wave clear where you're maxing the E first to make sure that you can just actually roam and have an effect. But this is more scaling from Team EnVy than they've ever had in this series so far.
I mean, just the fact they have the Kog'Maw and the Zac means late game team fights are no longer an inevitable win for CLG. CLG also lower on the tank line here because they've gone for the Camille. So more balanced team compositions than we've seen. The other games we've seen have been giant laning phase advantages for EnVy and then huge team fight advantages for CLG, and that's not true in this series. We have champions that can bridge you to late game team fights and champions that will be excelling in late game team fights. So that's what you want to see in series like this, evolve to a point in which the 5th game has to be the decider.
And what I love to see in a game number 5 is the sheer amount of engage between both sides. You've got a Gragas, an Alistar, and a Camille on one side. You've got a Gnar, a Zac, and a Nautilus comboed with a Kalista on the other. Both of these teams have a clean trigger pull.
And this is a very important game right now for a lot of players here. Honestly, rain or shine, whatever happens here, Apollo and Hakuho have shown they are a bottom lane to be reckoned with. But this game in particular, in my mind, for Darshan, this is redemption. Game 5 against FlyQuest, Camille was credited with the throw in the final moment. This is the Camille pick for him in Game 5 against EnVy to redeem himself.
And then we also have to talk about Puhi, who has been outstanding in almost all of these games this series.
Loading in. Game number 5. Make or break, it all comes down to this. Once more under the rift to decide who moves on to the semifinals, who guarantees themselves playing in Boston, and who goes home to watch the rest of the playoffs from a spectator spot. Team EnVy moving out of the blue corner for the first time this series. CLG moving out of the red.
And looking at the Kog'Maw, this may actually just be an AD Kog'Maw.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to talk to you about, Zyrene, because when you said you've seen a lot of Kog'Maw mid, I have seen AD Kog'Maw mid, which is why we are checking the runes and masteries right now. He has attack speed, quints, attack damage reds, and then Storm Raiders, which is common for bottom lane Kog'Maw, but this one, since they are just both ranged marksmen in the mid lane, going to look to have double AD carry.
Yeah, when I saw the attack speed of 0.78 at level 1, I was like, he's got AS runes right now.
Well, that Corki Chroma is so cool. He's black and orange.
Versus the Dogmaw, which is better, the Pugmaw.
Yeah, you've got black and orange super anime racer Corki versus Dogmaw. Man, that's hard to pick between.
Well, I hate Dogmaw.
I know it's Pugmaw audience, but Dogmaw makes sense too.
Yeah, I call it Dogmaw because it's better. Pugmaw is just, I don't know. It's too disjointing for me.
Yeah, I know. Dogmaw's only 1 letter off. Anyway, back into the game. We'll discuss skins later. This is all semantics because right now,
this
who's going to find the invade? They found Apollo, who has to pop summoner spells to get himself away. Hakuho now on the retreat as well. Afro, Omar, Stixay, chasing him out of there. Get the hell out of our jungle, says CLG.
The angle by Afro, but he burns Flash anyway when he didn't have to. He actually ends up losing out on this trade in a small way. 2 summoners for them, 3 summoners for EnVy, but Omar God still going to end up being harassed. He took damage in that fight, and now he's not getting a pull on his blue buff, so it keeps happening. EnVy keeps doing these invades and setting Omar God back, even though CLG is so ready for it. They don't have enough people there to actually convert a kill, and Afro burns both summoners yet again.
Yeah, he flashed so he could guarantee that he's on top of Apollo, because Hakuho was the one who was right up in front of him.
The angle was amazing.
Yes.
From Afro right there to predict that invade, but now a lot of summoners down. Whether you would repeat gank that.
Double 2.
Right? Imagine if Afro had Flash against a Flash's Kalista, how punishable that would be. Pulverize, Flash, headbutt backwards, can no longer do that.
But now, I really want to see what Apollo and Hakuho can do in this bottom lane for the final time. They've been so good in the previous 4 games. They need to do it again, big here.
And the fact that Apollo has no flash, I'm watching him to see what his laning is like in terms of confidence here, because you're dead to a Gragas body slam flash gank. Even though the Alistar isn't much threat to you, they're still going to play forward and have the jungler and assume he's on the other side. And Lyra's going to go ahead, invade here, and probably place down a ward so that they're safe on this side of the map because the summoner spell's down.
Yeah, in this whole series, we've talked about how Lyra has had so much early jungle presence holding down Omar God, and often talking about Zac being the reason for that. But Zac isn't a strong early game jungler. This game will be a real test of, was it Zac or was it Lyra versus Omar God? Because even now, with the Zac, the invading of that side of the jungle into deep wards to keep this bottom lane safe. Look at the wards and look at the Zac positioning that Lyra has created.
Good jump away there from Seraph, keeping away from Darshan's healing. But as this goes on, you mentioned earlier, chat, the Camille into this Gnar, level 6. Seraph's got to be careful. Absolutely. Mid lane, Kugi taking priority, shoving this wave up into the turret. Niski just having to deal with that farm up underneath as well as he can. CS very close between the two of them, honestly.
Hakuo making a little bit of a roam towards mid here on the side, and we're seeing Envy kind of operate as a machine as a whole in this game so far. You watch Lyra just go in, put down a whole bunch of wards before he even did his red buff. That was to keep the bottom lane safe from any level 3 comeback gank from the Gragas, and that was the priority he put on it. But now you see Omar God coming through the lane. Now he's spotted by a ward in the tri-brush that was placed by Hakuo.
Yeah, so much control of the bottom side this series. And then the question will be, can Omar God go somewhere else? Because he's been walking through vision all series long down bottom and not releasing pressure. Whereas now, they have 2 lanes that can snowball very aggressive. Camille and Gnar can be super snowbally for the Camille. You get a lead on Camille, you can usually just continue to extend it. And you're up against a Kog'Maw in the mid lane. That's a risky pick, especially one that doesn't sit 2,000 range back as an AP Kog'Maw to clear the wave. He's got to auto-attack those waves, so highly gankable lanes in the mid and top. But Omar trying to focus towards his bottom side.
So concerned with where there has been so much success for Envy in the previous 4 games. Seeing if maybe they can slow that down a little bit here.
What?
Anybody got a question mark, Ping?
So that's one where you think maybe he's trying to body slam really early to flash in, but other than that, it's inexplicable. It's potentially even just a misclick, but you see that more often with like a button that's closer to your trinket ward rather than your body slam. You almost never see that.
Yeah, if it's on 4, it's right next to the E, but that's about it. And he wasn't even placing one afterwards. So. Yep, but they're fighting over the Raptors. I just back to that. Oh, the auto attack trades.
Ooh, a lot of damage.
Storm Raider.
Risky got the Storm Raider. Ulti hits. Got one more ulti.
Aim it.
Nope.
Whenever I talk to Fusion Saber, or FSN Saber in solo queue, he was talking to me about the Storm Raiders Kog'Maw. The biggest benefit of Storm Raiders is that people do not expect you to proc it and then chase them down with all of that damage when he has the W on. It's that surprise factor where people usually calculate, oh, he's this fast or he's doing this much damage, but that throws you off in terms of the approach.
He'll be coming back into mid lane, giving Niski a lot of damage of his own, forcing the heal out of that Kog'Maw. So secondary summoner spells down for both mid laners now. The flash is still up. TP coming in top side from Darshan, so his will be down along with Seraph, who just teleported back into the lane. Wallop into the big ice ball with the thing going in there.
Yeah, pretty bold teleport there by Darshan, going right into a Mega Gnar, but Seraph decides not to all in, didn't have full eyes onto Omar, and now this is the timing that they want. Seraph has been Mega, he will be Mini, unable to transform back in. Darshan has ultimate, and they're looking to roam up. That's where Seraph needs to be, a mile away from the creeps.
Yeah, looks like they're going for the blue, just got taken away. No, just pulled, and now they know they're on this side.
Being able to spot that out means that Envy can rotate around and be ready for that attempt on their top laner.
Well, whether it's AP Kog'Maw or it's AD Kog'Maw, you want the blue buff. So contesting the blue buff and putting pressure on them to maybe even have Lyra smite it away to secure it is something you definitely want to do every single blue buff to a Kog'Maw mid.
Just continuing to farm up, shoving that wave in. Top side though, Seraph getting himself jumped on. Darshan going for the solo kill here.
He's gonna keep going.
So much damage, throws down the Hextech ultimatum. Seraph wanting to stay alive. Lyra shows up, might be able to turn this one around. Darshan expended a lot of resources, but there's nothing to apply the stretching strikes to, secondary.
So there's actually been a meta shift for Camille since we really last saw her. Remember, back in the day, it was the W max first for sustain off creep. That got nerfed. People max Q. It's now almost always you max E first, because you can actually both wave clear with it, and the cooldown goes down drastically every rank, so you can use it twice in a fight and a chase down. You can clear caster minions with it by Eing onto them, almost kills them, and then you just Tiamat, and that's how you get your Camille wave clear. So you max the E, and it gives you that gap closer for pressure, as well as not losing it in terms of your farm.
Yeah, and he's starting to get a lot more pressure in that lane, especially if you can move up towards Trinity Force before Seraph can get any armor itemized. 23 CS in that top lane.
That much of a difference this early on in the game. We're not even at 9 minutes yet. Yeah, he's farmed up 23, like you just said, the advantage, building it up even further now. With Sheen already completed, it means he gets that much more damage converted out of those procs as well, since on his Precision Protocol, it does turn it into true damage. So scary in the 1v1. Seraph will have to show that he's really got some mastery over this Gnar.
Whenever I think of Darshan in like really critical games or really critical playoff series, he's always got that kind of pocket pick. And we think back to the Yasuo versus the Gnar when they won at Madison Square Garden. And we think back to the Camille now up against the Gnar. Very practiced on. He was one of the first people to pick up Camille before everybody was like, oh, this is actually really busted. I remember him streaming it day one and loving that champion. And like I said, his skill kind of got a little bit, brandished by, tarnished by the fact that he had thrown the previous series. He's going to try again. Let's go for the trades.
Seraph popping off the Mega Gnar ulti right before he transforms back.
Yeah, Darshan's going to have Hex Tech Ultimatum any second. Huhi does not use a package up top to try and go for one of those guaranteed ganks. That's usually a Huhi play you may expect, but I think Niski doing a fairly good job this game in this series about kind of limiting Huhi's roaming plays. That's something Huhi has been so successful with against other teams. Instead, CLG really trying hard to control this bottom lane. Notice how Seraph actually has the ward control top, even though he's losing the top lane in CS. Omer out of Pokemon.
Oh my god. Trying to maybe control the Drake, but not today, says Team Envy. Moving in, they've got multiple collapsing. Doesn't look like CLG is willing to make a contest over this kind of a Drake, so Envy will continue to maintain that neutral objective control.
Darshan is honestly on the top side of the map right now, putting Seraph in a really bad spot. He's freezing the wave, slow pushing, and he's going to go on him now.
A little bit more damage. Oh, that's done. The range on that thing is absolutely insane.
And now he's slow pushing, and another wave will come back up. He's either going to get Seraph's teleport, or they're going to dive and set up a triple stacked wave to get him under the turret.
This mid lane, though, is rather effective with that Wit's End.
It's actually a lane swap. Darshan is slow push stacking the wave, so Tristana and Gragas can come up here.
Yeah, the timing on this is rather nice. The Kalista Nautilus has been threatening, but Lyra's actually up here to match, so they may be expecting a dive right here, which is what CLG would want to be able to do. They want to dive the Gnar right here. Can Lyra counter gank this? He's in spots where he'd be able to jump in. This could be huge. But
going in.
All right, CLG, he's looking to make a move. Seraph trying to get the Mega before he gets popped, but he just can't do it. Stixxay grabs the first blood, and now they may just be able to make it into two. Courage of the Colossus keeping Lyra alive. He's forced to walk away as the four-man CLG unit pushes down top.
Oh, baby Zach trying to walk away, can't get there. CC, they're going
Meanwhile, Huhi coming around, Lyra jumping away, smites for HP. Stays alive, but the top lane turret goes down, and turret first blood to CLG.
And that's the type of team play that CLG need to have to advance here in the playoffs. Everything on the line in Game 5. They do the 10-minute swap, and not only do they get the turret, they catch Envy by surprise, get a kill as well.
And that was a play that was very far, way in the past in the making, where Darshan had the wave bounce off of the Gnar's wave, but he wins the 1v1, so he's able to slow stack it. They get the push, and Aphromoo actually avoided all vision. He didn't go through the Tri-Brush or anything like that for that vision. He went through mid to come here to help with the dive. Darshan started it off, he dropped aggro after he used the ultimate, and then Aphromoo is here to tank it up afterwards.
And they absolutely CC locked Seraph, so he could not cast a spell to trigger Mega Gnar before the cooldown would have forced him to transform. So very critical if they chained the CC that well. Otherwise, it would have been Mega Gnar into the wall, stunning 2 or 3 people.
And this kind of premeditation and execution put together is what CLG fans have been wanting to see from this team the entire series. This is what has been expected of CLG.
And ever since they brought in Ziggs, I remember CLG becoming that level 1, the lane swap team, the team that has that clever macro play that'll throw you off your game. And right there, CLG, that was very reminiscent of the way that fans really perceived them from the olden days.
There we go. Rift Herald secured. Lyra making sure he picks up the eye. And Envy has that under their control. They are down 1,000 gold, 13 minutes into the game. They'll likely need to use that Rift Herald to try to even that up a little bit. Mid lane turret is still standing, means that will likely be where they drop it. Apollo just dropping off the Ghost to make sure that nothing's coming for him as he grabs his farm here in the top side. A very significant farm advantage for Apollo over Stixxay yet again, showing that game number 5 isn't really going to break this trend between the bot laners.
Yeah, a lot of people are okay picking Tristana into Kalista, but you're still favoring the Kalista in that matchup. Alistar also not considered a super strong laner, but Nautilus not considered a laner in many metas right now for support, so still have to credit Apollo and Hakuo for consistently getting an edge over CLG's veteran bottom lane.
Remember, Apollo blew both summoner spells level 1, and Stixxay still had his, but Afremu couldn't apply pressure with a flash afterwards, so the pressure in the lane from the support was pretty much in favor of Hakuo.
Push continues top, but it also continues bottom side for CLG.
Lane
Darshan and Omar God, they just want to make the dive happen. Remember, Darshan's able to drop the aggro if need be with the Hextech ultimatum, not even required. Omar God gets the kill.
And this is where CLG's trying to snowball. They have the Camille into Gnar. They have the advantage right now. Full just straight up turret dive onto Seraph. Not even a chance of staying alive.
Yeah, this is an out draft / an out preparation here. They picked the Gnar early because it had been something that Darshan would lean on to win, because Seraph obviously says he doesn't have a counter for it that he's willing to play right now. And they gave it away, and Darshan counter picks it very early on.
CLG, 2,500 gold up, 15 minutes in. One of the better performances we've seen out of them early on in this series. Here we go again with the dive onto Seraph.
Yeah, it doesn't require the Hextech ultimatum, and they also get the flash out of Seraph here at the end. Oh my God, playing to that winning lane, and this is the fear for Envy. They didn't get any of the turrets before the swap, and then they swapped a winning lane to the bottom side, and CLG now get the pressure, and they're 2 turrets up because of it.
Yeah, and Lyra's still sitting at 0-0-0 on that Zac. Envy has a team composition, triple auto attackers. They really want to be able to set up an extended team fights, but if they're consistently getting picked off by the Camille, you look at this team composition, who's the carry that can go in a side lane and not get soloed by Camille? Especially if he's able to snowball ahead. The one thing that CLG would want more is if those 2 assists for Darshan were 2 kills, because you can still itemize defensively on Gnar, and Camille hasn't quite crested that will kill everyone no matter what.
Now, on the thing that you just brought up, Jad, talking about 3 auto attackers on the side of Team Envy, is this one of those kinds of games, you think, where the Stoneborn pack Nautilus goes for an Ardent Censer?
I want that to be a possibility, Captain Flowers, but I don't think we're there yet as far as people's willingness to sell out for the Censer. We've seen Trundles go Ardent Censers, but specifically because Hakuo would have no way of really staying alive. He'd be a full-on peel dude. Whoever you ult, it allows Censer to proc for everyone. I think it would be good, but I just don't see it happening because he'd be paper.
I mean, Afremu actually just did it last game with Bard, where he had Stoneborn pack instead of going for like a Thunderlords for lane. So right now, though, flank from Darshan on the bottom side, Infernal Drake, and then there's 4 people towards the mid here for CLG. They have mid priority, and it might be a fight. Darshan over the side, he can look at whatever carry.
This is such a big Drake. Either side wanting to give it away. Envy, though, health bars a little bit compromised here. CLG, full HP.
Yeah, Mega Gnar, though, is buying them a lot of time right here. CLG disengaged. They want that Mega Gnar to transform and not to be a big deal. The Rift Arrow going down bottom is actually pretty clever right here from Envy, and Seraph actually managing to hold off on the transformation, buying them time to continue to poke around here.
Envy stalling. Elastic Slingshot, interrupted. Gotta love Body Slam with its priority over almost every other movement ability. Rift Herald stopped before it can find the kill onto the bottom lane tier 1.
Big priority, though. Like I said, when you have 4 people in that position, oh, got him!
There we go onto Stixxay, but he gets himself away with the flash. Envy almost coming up big with that one. They do get the Summoner spell, though. That could be a huge factor in the upcoming team fight, but over the wall goes Darshan. They're able to juggle around Lyra, popping the passive, taking down the blobs. Hakuo and the rest of the team trying to defend him. The root down onto Omar God as Niski seals his fate. Flash away from Lyra. Hakuo also barely going to be kept alive here. The Boomerang finds 4. More damage from the Kog'Maw artillery. It's a 1-for-0 in the favor of Team Envy. However, they do lose the Zac passive, so we'll call it 1 for a half.
Yeah, and also an Infernal Drake going to go over CLG, so while the kills were in CLG's favor, Envy expended pretty much everything to keep Lyra alive to get that kill on over.
And there's this gigantically stacked wave on the top side, so they're just going to give that to Apollo so he doesn't lose any farm time. But it was guaranteed gold on the top side, whereas the Infernal Drake is not guaranteed for you.
And when you have a top laner that's built as one of these damage champions as opposed to a hard tank, you're going to get a lot more value out of that Infernal tree. Very good pickup.
Yeah, interrupts a rocket jump, but then the ultimate burn by Envy. And what actually happens when you burn an ult for flash, if you fight right away, the ult being down is usually more important for that fight. So stick safe, sitting on the outside, everyone just jumps onto Lyra. Omar does get knocked up by the Nautilus, chain CC by the root, and then the 3 auto attackers do track him down. That's going to be an issue this whole game unless Darshan's able to initiate on the squishies with Afro move. But as you saw, multiple members really low for Envy, gives the Infernal over to CLG.
CLG with that damage bonus with a 2,000 gold lead, and with Baron spawning in 1 minute, currently find themselves in control of the game. But they got to make sure they hang on to it. Envy grabs themselves their first turret of this game. 1-3 in that count. Ocean Drake under their belts, but that's not going to give nearly as much combat potential as the Infernal will.
Speaking of combat potential, Rage Blade just completed, second item for Niski. So this is a team, hold on, Seraph, oh boy.
This is a team whose top laner has found himself in trouble time and again in game number 5 as Darshan, you mentioned it at the start of this game, Zyrene, the story of redemption on this champion specifically. This was where things turned tragic in spring. He doesn't want it happening again here.
Yeah, and Seraph is playing into him right now. Seraph killed that turret a full wave before Darshan made it down there and wanted to continue to apply pressure beyond that point, but no other outer turret had been killed on the map. That's a greedy play by Seraph, and Camille is the perfect champion to punish it.
Apollo will continue building his CS lead. It does get larger and larger. I mean, he's up to a 50 lead now. Blade of the Rune King's out on him, working on the Runeans next. Interested to see when Niski will go for a Runeans of his own to continue to apply multiple on-hits to everybody in the team fight. But Team Envy has got to be careful about the way they play these things. That Camille, if she gets too much further ahead, there's just not going to be an answer anymore.
I mean, we got to see Seraph do the Trundle versus the Maokai and completely ignore Darshan's Maokai and push scenarios. This one plays out differently. Instead of ignoring Seraph, he's just going to ignore everything else and kill Seraph.
Yep.
Little even more volatile than the Trundle versus Maokai can look.
Yeah, and especially the first kill that happens in this matchup is just so snowbally. If you can get the Gnar before he starts getting towards the Black Cleaver and Frozen Mallet, because he got him before, I believe, Phase even came through, which would have increased his guild. Oh my god.
Wow, that was a good hook. All right, here comes the CC. They got to be able to finish him off, though. The flash away. Darshan still trying to escape. Look at that CD on that E, but he makes the Hextech ultimatum. It doesn't do anything. Hakuo grabs the kill.
Yeah, the Camille didn't make it over the wall with the second hook shot. She just rolls right into it. Too fat of a wall to get over there. It was perfect, Hakuo.
But now, Apollo in the top side going to be jumped on. Blade of the Ruined King pops to try to keep himself alive. Double Valkyrie in. Lives traded across the map. You take my top laner, I'm taking your AD carry and your tier 2. CLG gets better of the trade.
So willing to go for a play when a play has just been made on them. Not hesitating. Omar now going for Hakuo.
Here we go again. A flash body slam into a cast, but Hakuo gets himself away. Just for now, Niski with damage over the wall. Omar God gonna be targeted, goes over into Niski's face, but the damage comes out. One more auto attack, maybe able to get him. Instead, it's Nixay who falls! Niski gets the kill. CLG trying to retreat now, but instead it's going to be Darshan on the flank, finding Lyra, taken low. Niski's damage output is there, and it is bananas.
The burst
Except not quite all the bananas.
onto Stixay was insane right there. I don't know if other words to describe it. He just took everything. Fully stacked Rage Blade from the previous fight as he was kind of smacking all the tanks as they come in. Lyra delivers the boy to him, and his entire health bar just disappears.
That was an insane amount of damage that just popped up. That unpredictability of the damage. You think every auto is going to do this much, do X? It ends up throwing you off so hard, and then the chase down afterwards. But this was Lyra delivering Stixay, making the best of a bad situation where Hakuo got caught, outplays the cask here after the body slam flash.
Yeah, it is a 4v2, saving for a 4v3 when this happens. So CLG has the right to feel very confident, but watch Niski on the outside just hitting and hitting and hitting and stacking up slowly for that max stack Rage Blade, and then Stixay just disappears.
3 autos.
I believe he must have gotten off a point blank Q or something, and then by the time Darshan teleports in there, it's like, you know what, Niski's still Rage Bladed up, and his W's now off cooldown, so he's gonna try and get you. The Q over the wall from Omar Guard slows him down just enough to allow Darshan to make this.
It looked like his Storm Raiders had just fallen off as well.
And you know, it's really interesting because when you look at items like the Rage Blade, things that have to be stacked up in order to be effective. Against a team that all maintains range and all maintains distance and just kites you back, those items can be very hard to use because you aren't able to stack them up. But against a team that's 2 damage dealers and 2 meatballs that you just get to hit over and over and over and over and over and stack, that item's awesome.
Yeah, they need the long fights. As we see, it looks like they're going double Knight's Vow with Hakuho and Lyra. Still leaves the door open for the super ardent sensor synergy later on.
I'm
but
still hoping
that
we see
durability is very
eventually.
necessary.
Right.
And this game, I think, is actually, in terms of tankiness, the least tanky of the 5 games so far. So having the Kog'Maw in this game is going to be really big. This shredding here, I am waiting for these 480 carries, these 4 marksmen in this game, to start hitting these bruisers who don't have an enormous amount of resistances. It's going to be who divers can really get to the other guys and actually kill them, because sometimes the Kog'Maw is just good enough and has enough peel and enough CC around him that he can just stand there and destroy you.
Yeah, and this Drake's going to be such an important fight if CLG goes quickly, because there's standing gold for Envy. If they win a fight, they'll get turrets and gain a gold lead. But if CLG win this fight, that's just another Drake to add to their arsenal and continue to apply pressure.
Remember that last game, Envy was ahead at 24 minutes into the game. They fought for an Ocean Drake and they threw. They cannot repeat that again. Darshan coming in from the side. Ocean Drake taken low. Hook coming out. Hawkwo looking to make this happen. Lyra with the secure onto the Ocean Drake. Niski needs to stay protected. Afro-Mu goes into the back line, able to lock him down. Stun onto Apollo. He is done. Darshan also going to be falling. Niski with free firing time, able to find the damage. Stixxay still able to rampage. Let's battle right back into the fight. But it's who's turning things around. Instead, Envy has found themselves success as well. Stixxay still looking to jump around, still looking to finish somebody off. 2 tanks left alive, 1 carry. What in the world?
That was a bloodbath if I have ever seen one. Darshan eliminates Apollo on the backside, but there are 280 carries in this rodeo, and Niski does so much damage as he stacks up throughout the fight. Stixxay also on the side, untouched.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of these fights just be paper versus paper, because everybody is just so squishy here. This, Omargot takes a lot of damage, tries to just knock them and disrupt them, and then Darshan in the back line, they obliterate Apollo, but watch the health bar from Darshan. As soon as he gets out of the knockup from the Fate's Call, he's dead, and now Niski gets to stand his ground, auto attacks onto Huhi, the CC from Lyra, and now he just keeps getting auto attack back and forth. That last little knockup there to stop Niski from killing them all both before he dies was crucial, or else he would have been able to do a lot more.
Yeah, very start of that fight, Hakuho ulted Stixxay, which delayed his entrance, but when he arrived, he packed a monstrous punch because he still had all his cooldowns, so he freely jumped in at the very end of those fights to kind of clean up at the end.
And looking at these numbers, it's not the 4,600 I'm looking at, or the 4,799. It's the 520 on Apollo. He got popped so early in that fight, he could barely contribute to your
Hold on, though. Kog'Maw on Baron, super good.
Darshan's teleport isn't up yet. They're forcing hard. They have Nautilus ult if they want to peel the fight, but they have to be careful.
Seraph going into Meganar.
Where are they going?
Ooh, Envy.
It's
Not
just
willing to take this one. I can respect being cautious about that.
instead they just lose mid priority, get shoved into them, and they have to catch their tier 2 and clear up their jungle as they sacrifice forward.
Especially with the number of auto attackers in this game, if you win a fight substantially, the turrets will drop so quickly. In game 5, the next mistake could decide the season.
Absolutely. Both teams fighting hard to get to this point. Only one gets to go any further.
Now, CLG, they're doing this thing where they put both their TPs on one side and they've had him in Fog of War just in case. Huhi plays the Fog of War game so well when there's a 1-3-1. Don't always expect him to be there.
Yeah, we've hardly talked about the threat of the CLG double TP. It used to be their calling card back when they won their last 2 LCS championships, was their ability to always find flanks and stretch the map. It's been a while since we've seen that really be the calling card of the CLG play, but that's what they're going for in this deciding game 5, and it's an overload strategy. Seraph has already been picked on this game, he's 0-4, and even if he can 1v1 Darshan, Huhi has a chance to teleport down there too, or just stay down there, and then they can still both teleport back to overload the other side of the map.
Exactly. The fact that there's Fog of War in this bottom side means Seraph is definitely not safe because Darshan would be able to lock him up, and Huhi, who will shove out mid and look for roams, could potentially put that pressure onto Envy, and then they both have the threat of TPing Baron, like you said.
I want to also point out, Niski working on a frozen mallet.
He's doing it now.
Seraph
Here he comes, baby.
dunked. Darshan looking to put an end to him yet again. Jumping away, Seraph able to stay alive. Meganar just in time. Huhi can't finish it off. That's 2 bodies down south for CLG, but they don't find their mark.
Yeah, it doesn't even get flash away from Seraph. They will get this turret, so a chip strategy giving them about another 1,000 gold of lead. Not going to be what pushes them over the edge here, and he actually backs off because they don't have vision in the jungle, and now, here's the overload, right? Huhi is down here as well. Darshan is down here. If EnVy sends too many, CLG go for Baron. You have to find a way to disrupt this pattern if you're EnVy.
And right now, it doesn't seem to be working. EnVy is moving themselves towards the Baron. All right, they're just going to start clearing out the wards.
Yeah, and here's the issue as well.
For this
is you don't have enough wards to place both the Baron and the bottom side. They're saying, all right, we're going for Baron. They're going to try to get TPs here, but they're forcing bottom simultaneously.
You got to start TPing real quick.
All right.
Ballistic and Ren. That's
in.
one. They still have the other.
They get one of the TPs that reduces this back to a 1 versus 1 in the bottom lane. Seraph can maintain that under the turret.
And it's got to be a sigh of relief for Seraph as well, because that is such a painful situation to deal with. Because the only way to really diffuse that is to have your team have sweepers walk through your bottom side jungle, give you wards there, but you want to put all of your wards on Baron and around the Baron area. That's where you want to use your sweepers. So CLG kind of taxing the sweepers as well as the wards. You only have so many at this point in the game.
Flashback to Season 2, where supports finished the game with a pair of brown boots and about 17,000 purchase wards.
No
light up the entire map, but not today. League of Legends changed a little bit since then. Looks a lot prettier at least. EnVy down 2,500 gold 30 minutes in, 7-7, all tied up in kills. Really down in terms of turrets. We already mentioned it just in passing, but should EnVy win a fight, the standing gold that is all of a sudden going to flow into their pockets is huge, and they will quickly surge forward.
Yeah, and we refer to standing gold as the outer turrets. They're very easy to take down, and they give a lot of gold if you have the map pressure to do so. Lyra trying to scare something out of Huhi. They really didn't have that many people there, and the 2,000 gold is pretty inconsequential in the grand scheme of things, unless it relates to completed items. So Nisqy just completed Frozen Mal. Before that, it was a big deal that Huhi was ahead of him in items.
Yeah, Huhi is actually still very ahead of him in gold. He's 2,000 gold up. Just for context, Darshan is only 1,000 up over Seraph, and that's the lane that we've been looking at as a big pressure point. But Huhi has almost 70 CS up over Nisqy, because he's able to go to side lanes and have the TP, whereas Nisqy, if he goes to a side lane, it has to be top or mid. Can't go to bottom, because the TP is not there for him.
Last elemental Drake of the game, going over the way of Huhi, Darshan, and the rest of CLG. That's going to tie that count up 2-2. Also prevents EnVy from having that triple ocean insane regeneration.
Yeah, 2 Drakes to 2 keeps this game nice and close, and you can really see how CLG is focusing on this 2-3 strategy with the double TP guys doing their own thing and the team of Aphromoo, Stixxay, and Omar trying to do the rest. This is vintage CLG as far as the way they try and stall out games when they think they have better scaling or when they think they can make more plays in clutch situations.
And this mid turret has actually just been a huge burden for EnVy. They really want to take this so they can shove mid priority even further past that mid point, whereas CLG, every time, they get to collapse it to the tier 2, and it gives them more time to work with around the Baron and around collapsing.
Yeah, and if EnVy wants to break this pattern, they have to find a way to fight the small squad. They have to have Hakuho get a depth charge onto someone that they can actually follow up with, but that is so hard to do against Trist, Gragas, Alistar. All 3 of them have knockback mechanics. 2 of them can jump away under their own accord.
Wow! That was 1 auto attack and 1 rocket, by the way. With the rapid fire cannon along with 50 force proc. Turret destroyed in the mid lane. Tier 2 going down. CLG, number 6 for them.
Really wanting an ult on someone.
EnVy wants to go for this. They're able to find Omar God. Lyra jumping in. Aphromoo into the back lines, trying to ult up, tank up, be right there to keep these guys occupied. Health bar is going to be dropping fast. Hakuho almost taken down. They're going to be going low too. Nisqy grabbing the kill onto Aphromoo. EnVy 4 versus 5. Now looking to make things happen. Apollo take it low, take it down! Stixxay with the kill! Now they've also got the shutdown down onto Hakuho. Nisqy's aiming for the D! Nisqy! My God! The triple kill for Stixxay! A double kill for Nisqy. 2 left on each side.
And they get to push in here, and Nisqy, that was insane on the back end of the fight. He didn't have the focus on him. Apollo got burst. He was the one that CLG went for, but the damage from the Kog'Maw was incredible.
And these fights are so tightly decided because Apollo got stunned by Darshan's hookshot. That means Niski did not get stunned by that hookshot, and both of those guys can take over fight in late game. But the same is true between Huhi and Stixxay, because they are very mirrored compositions in the way that they play. Finally, Hakuho finds the hook. This is the only thing EnVy can have, and CLG close to coming away with this fight. Watching this, Lear and Hakuho get chunked out very early. They only pull in tanks, they don't pull in carries. So to this point, the carries are safe. But knocking back the Kog'Maw means the next available target is Apollo. I'm sorry, man, but your Kog'Maw got knocked away. Darshan blows him up. But Niski is still untouched, which is the critical thing. Stixxay does get a triple kill, can't hop through right there, gets bopped sideways by Lyra, and that gives Niski enough time to clean up on his end as well.
It's interesting because Apollo getting hit by the E there may have actually saved the fight, because Darshan was looking to hit Seraph, interrupt his TP, they kill Zac in flop form, he doesn't get the CC after.
And EnVy is tired of playing this full push game. They're forcing, it's risky, but it's what they have to do.
They're saying it's time to go. The game is going to end one way or the other right here. Niski, the guy they've got to protect, the guy that's got to be kept safe. Baron below half HP. CLG mounting their attack. Lyra going to be taken low, having to escape off to the side. Afro moves able to find the knockup. Lyra taken out before he can do anything. Niski over the wall, coming back right there into the river. The cast is able to find him. Airborne onto Darshan. Hakuho right back into the fight. Niski grabbing the kill onto Darshan, but now he's going to be the target. A double kill for Huhi. EnVy having to back away. Still able to hold the line. Oh my god, going to be taken down next. Niski having to run. The damage for Huhi. The triple kill for Huhi. They're still able to find the damage. Apollo can't do anything. Stixxay, unstoppable.
And the CLG carries stand supreme with the follow-up of Omar and Afro in this fight. These are backyard brawls happening right now in these fights. 6-1-5 on Stixxay, 6-2-5 on Huhi. They get the Baron, and now they have full control of the game.
This is the game 5 of my dreams. This is beautiful.
It's been so close the whole time, but they push Apollo off. His Ren stacks fade away, and Afro Moon is just causing pressure against Hakuho, and they didn't peel off fast enough. Lyra drops because of the Baron damage, and the rest of it from CLG.
Lyra takes way too much damage. The re-hit from Hakuho is actually quite good, and you notice, like, wow, the EnVy carries are still alive, but they have to fight through Afro and Omar God. Omar sacrificing himself pretty much, what it looks like, doesn't die, puts Niski in a bad spot. The CC is enough to make him turn tail. His W is down. These fights are much longer than one cycle of Kog'Maw W, so he's only got that 8 seconds of uptime, and then he's got a significant amount of time while he's waiting for the regen.
I was going to touch on that in the previous fight, because what they did is they pulled off in the mid lane fight and waited for Niski's second W, bought enough time for it, and now in this fight, I believe he only got one rotation off on it, and he ran away at the end instead of standing his ground because it had just worn off.
And that damage dealt to champions in team fights is the best story of the game we can tell. It is 2 carries on both sides, and everyone else being meat shields and trying to play setup, and they're not actually very capable of reaching the carries. That's why they're not doing that much damage themselves. So this is an insane fight, and if any of these teams actually get a carry and obliterate him at the start of the fight, they're going to win that fight for sure.
100%.
Because of how much percentage of damage is coming from just the mid lane and bot lane rolls from both teams.
Both these teams are 2 mallets and 3 meatballs. Whichever one can squash the other team faster will find themselves the win. Seraph has almost no way to defend against Huhi. The poke, the damage from this guy, nearly full build now.
And now you have to watch out if you're EnVy for CLG 1-3-1. 3 people top. Darshan is mid, so because he doesn't have TP, he can transition faster, but it's triple pressure with the Baron buff here onto EnVy. These structures are taking so much damage, they're forcing a play onto Huhi.
All right, this is the guy they're going to go for. They're trying to go. There comes your flash into your hook, able to find some damage. Seraph has to jump away. Apollo now going to be in some danger, but the exhaust will make sure they find the kill. Top side, 1 inhibitor's already gone down, but now the fight comes in. Niski's taken down. CLG have found the enemy mid laner. The Hextech ultimatum is going to keep Lyra in place. The Bloblets are summoned. They're likely going to be burned before they can do anything about it. Lyra gets back into his full form, only to be taken down again. Afro move finding the kill, jumping away. Trying to stay alive. Darshan's got the kill! Ladies and gentlemen, from the ashes of near defeat, CLG will rise again to find themselves in the semifinals.
It was all a bad dream. The Game 5 redemption for CLG, and they're going to semis.
What a performance from CLG. Their macro play, their teamwork, the way they executed, like you described it, Jet, the classic CLG calling card. That's how they won, and they couldn't have done it in a better style.
And they never lost faith, if we're talking about CLG. They leveraged their experience. They went back to basics. The 1-3-1, the Tryst, the double TP. It came in the clutch for CLG. And this is not the series they expected to play. They got the 3rd seed against the 6th seed, and Envy was far fewer match wins than anyone else in the playoffs. Many expected CLG to roll over Envy, but that is not what happened. Envy put up one hell of a fight. But CLG moves on to semis.
Beyond a valiant effort from Team Envy. They exceeded the expectations of everybody around them. They nearly took down CLG in the quarterfinals, but it is the experience and the team play and the cohesion of these 5 members of CLG, the 4 members who have had so much experience together, along with the new rookie jungler in Omar God, that have been able to find their victory in a full best-of-5 series today. Now their preparation lies with the semifinals and what they're going to be doing in the coming weeks.
Yeah, and it almost seemed like we were going to have a semifinals without CLG for 2 splits in a row. It was close, that giant deficit they had in Game 4, but they persevered, and that's the type of game sometimes you need to overcome as a rookie to fully get the jitters out of your system, because it doesn't matter how much you get invaded early or how many times the enemy jungler may get wards down or how many times your bottom lane dies. CLG has that everlasting sense of confidence that they can persevere in the end, and it's going to be tough. This is not the series they wanted to play, and they got a lot of work to do and improvement if they want to be able to take down their opponent next week.
Yeah, and I think about the way that this has ended up, where the solo laners were firing on almost all cylinders for the majority of these games. It was the bottom lane. This is the one where we really saw Stixxay step up, almost doubled Apollo's damage in this game. The team fights came down to that range advantage. And once again, when I'm talking about the draft throughout this entire series, CLG's comps, as a holistic sense, made sense. And then this one, they had all the parts come together with the strengths.
Yeah, and throughout the season, Envy was picking for strong lanes, and CLG oftentimes would pick for team comp.
Right.
And we got to see that battle play out over and over again in these games until the last one, actually. Envy said, you know what? We just lost the last game. We're going to try and pull out this new Kog'Maw thing in the mid lane.
And it almost
We're
worked.
not going to smash lanes. Exactly. It almost worked.
It almost worked, but they also put Lyra on a tank jungler, something that doesn't have that early pressure. They started to play CLG's game, and CLG beat them with experience.
Yeah, and for CLG, we keep talking about this. They move on to play Immortals next, right? They need to take a deep breath after this series, realize that they get to fight another day, right? This time they come out on top in the Game 5. It was quite a series.
Absolutely impressive showing from them in game number 5 to seal the deal.
Yeah, and to hear more about that series from a player who fought tooth and nail for the win, we're going to send it to Avli, who has an interview with CLG's top laner.
Thanks, guys. Great cast on the day. I am here with Darshan. Darshan, that was an incredible series. You guys won game 1, then we're down 2 games. How are you and the team able to turn the series around?
I kind of felt like the whole series, Envy was playing their early game pretty well. They had a lot of strong early picks, and they were kind of dictating the pace of the game. And I kind of think we fell into that a little bit, and we're letting them make what plays we wanted, and we fought dragons that we were supposed to lose. And I feel like when we took a step back, and in the game, I remember having this thought CLG isn't going to go out in the quarterfinals. This is not the type of team we are, and I don't want to lose here today. And I kind of just communicated how we just need to take it slow and focus on the fights we can win. And I think once we slowed down and did that, we just kind of came back in the series, because it was kind of a series of what team made more mistakes. And Envy just made more mistakes than we did, and we were able to win the game.
Now, you mentioned that early game Envy was putting up a fight. A lot of it had to do with them trying to shut down Omar God. How did the team react to Envy's early jungle focus?
Yeah, so I think Envy's team that focuses heavily on the jungle matchup, and we're on Zac, which is a really weak early game jungler, and they kind of had a nice cheesy strat to kind of just have their bottom lane walk in and screw us over early game. So that was pretty hard to deal with. So we just decided to go with other junglers, and it was a lot easier for Omar, I think, after that.
In situations like those where they maybe pull off a cheese strat, what does the team usually do?
I think it's just about understanding why they can do it and how we're going to fix it for next time. And I think we were kind of slow to adapt to that in this series, but I think that's something that we can definitely improve on moving forward.
And what kind of preparation did you and the team do coming into today's series?
We just did a lot of like looking at what they're playing in solo queue, kind of understanding what picks they could be pulling out, and kind of just theorizing like how we're going to do drafts. And that's most of what we spend our time on, and there's also like level 1s and stuff like that. But we definitely could have done a lot more preparation. And I think going against Immortals next, who has a lot more information on us, preparing all we can is going to be really important.
Now, I want to ask you about Immortals in a second because they're your opponent next week. But Envy, they played one heck of a series. Is there anything that you'd like to say to them as opponents?
I definitely want to say that it was a really hard-fought series. I think Envy is still a really good team with a really strong early game, and it was definitely a hard-fought win. I definitely don't think that we really deserved to move on to the semifinals with how we played. But in the end, I think we just ended up being the better team, and I really want to make sure that we make the semifinals count and make this playoffs count because I don't want to just fall out in semifinals. I want to be the best team in NA, and we have to step up a lot if we're going to do that.
Well, you have the opportunity to prove yourself next week. You play against Immortals. CLG is currently 0-2 against them in the regular split. You play against your old teammate, Xmithy. How are you doing going into that match?
Yeah, I think for Immortals, Jake Xmithy is probably, in my opinion, their best player in the sense that he's kind of, everyone plays around him. He's kind of the shot caller. He's the leader of that team. And I feel like it's going to be even harder than the Envy series was, especially in the early game. And so I think shutting him down is going to be a huge thing. But I definitely think that in all the individual lanes, we can definitely hold up. And it's just about who comes together better as a team, as it so happens every playoff. So it's definitely going to be a really hard one, but I think we can win.
Well, I'd love to see it happen, and I wish you the best of luck. And to wrap up this series, we're going to head on over to the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Avali. A nail biter to be certain here for Game 5, but CLG ends up victorious over Envy in our second quarterfinal. They'll be moving on to face off against Immortals, that we just heard from Darshan, how he feels about that matchup. Before we preview next week's games, though, I want to kind of relive this 5-game series, figure out how we got here. All of it. Let's talk about this series, because you heard from Darshan there. He didn't feel like they necessarily deserve, that kind of playoff victory, but they were the team that made fewer mistakes on the day.
I think it's one where CLG in some areas got a little exposed, and that's why they struggled so much, where their bot lane, when it took losing matchups against a competent bot lane, they got destroyed a couple times. They had to start reverting to stronger matchups to make sure they weren't getting abused, and at the same time,
destroyed a lot.
A lot, yeah. They lost basically every laning phase. At the same time, OhMarGod consistently made mistakes, even in that final game. Just really strange plays, like the body slam into a wall with no flash over, and like that. You're just like, what's happening? And I think if you don't clean those things up, you have a very small chance of potentially making it to the finals.
Yeah, we knew that they were gonna, have a hard time bringing in OhMarGod with such little time to prepare for playoffs. Even beyond the level 1s and the stuff that Darshan was talking about Envy doing to set the jungle behind, we did see some moments, their critical moments a lot of times as well, where the nerve show there for Omar and the rookie status really does show.
Now, Game 5, interestingly enough, kind of flipped the whole story of the series on its head, where CLG is finally the team that really gets out to a lead, and it's Envy who has to try and mount the comeback. Well, on top of all of that, we saw the Kog'Maw mid come out, and to be honest, I was very impressed with Niski's performance, even in the loss on that champion.
It was definitely a very different team comp. Once again, Envy takes the Gnar away, or for the first time, they take it away, and Darshan does something he's so great at, which is, I'm going to play this one champion so well that you don't want to ban it, you'll take it away from me, and then I have the counter prepared. So he did this back in the day of the TSM, where he took the Yasuo into Gnar, here takes the Camille, and starts slamming, Seraph in lane, and then after that, that's kind of what keyed CLG's early advantage.
Yeah, I mean, Darshan had such a good game up until there are 2 team fights where he gets CC locked so he can't get off the ultimate, instead of being able to, use the ultimate to dodge one of them, but those situations were a little bit hard to watch, but the pick itself and the strategy behind it was definitely sound.
All right, but before we head to an interview with Team Envy, I do want to pull up our single replay here. It's that 4-for-1 around the Baron. CLG coming away with this late game team fight, really taking it right after Envy had made a stab back into it.
Right, but the problem was, during that stab back into it, Lyra lost his passive. He used his E in the Baron pit, so he has no mobility to get out. They know the flash is down, they know the passive down, so CLG kind of instantly makes the decision to go and get that kill, and then from there, as a frontline member down, both teams have 2 really high damage carries for their team comp.
Yeah, everything revolves around those high damage carries. Nixie, everybody's got their eyes on him. Aphromoo tries to stall it, then OhMarGod sacrifices once again. He goes in, doesn't quite die, and buys the room for Huhi and Stixxay to push forward and take down the backline there. So incredibly close, even at that stage in the game where it's Envy starting it out with the Baron. And so basically this entire series comes down to this incredibly tense moment that late in the game.
Well, I'm happy that the series at least it was determined in a late game team fight, right? Where things were relatively even, both teams face off against each other, and one team comes out on top. With all that said, we're now going to throw it back over to Avli, who's standing by with Apollo for his take on the series.
Thanks, guys. I am here with Apollo. We were actually just discussing one of those replays and your play in the bot lane. I mean, you and Hakuho had an incredible bot lane regardless. Do you want to tell me a little bit about your bot lane, maybe your synergy?
Yeah, I mean, me and Hakuho, we definitely performed really well. But not only that, I think we kind of picked around it. So we had a pressure jungler as well as a pressure bot lane duo. And then they kind of opted towards like a late game scaling duo. So I do think we played well, but, you know, I got to give credit to CLG's bot lane. They had like a losing matchup every single time. So I'm not going to say that like we smashed them or anything. It's just, I think that's just how the duo lane goes.
Now, I do want to take a second and actually acknowledge EnVy's progress as a team. I mean, last split, you were in the promotion tournament, and now you made it all the way to the playoffs. So how was your experience with this season, and how have you grown?
It was definitely rough last split. So I'm happy that even though we lost today, I think I'm happy with our team's performance. So I think, I mean, yeah, even though we lost, well, actually don't really know what else to say. It was rough, but yeah, I think next time or next split, hopefully we do better. Yeah.
All right. Well, looking to next split, are you going to do anything special to prepare for it in the off season, or how are you going to spend your off season?
I think relaxing probably is better. I'm probably gonna chill, not play too much League, or maybe I will, but then I'll go back home and visit family. But yeah, I don't have anything planned yet.
Not yet. Well, maybe family can help you recharge. I mean, family's always the best way to do that. But thank you so much for taking this time to talk with us, and we're going to throw it back over to our friends at the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Avali. Heads should be held very high for Envy. Unfortunately, this is the end of the road for them, as with this loss, FlyQuest will actually edge them out in terms of a spot in the regional gauntlet. So their season is officially done here. But I think the growth, as Apollo talked about last split to this split, not happy with last split, I think they can be happy with the growth that they made this split.
It feels like Apollo's a humble guy in general, and I think he's being a little bit too humble in that interview where he was just saying, oh, that's just how the matchups played out. I mean, they did have favorable matchups, but they
also had outplays.
Yeah, they also had outplays. They also just generally were winning the matchup harder than it needed to be. They didn't need to hit that many hooks. You didn't need to get that many kills in lane, and I think that's something where they deserve to, like you said, hold their heads high about their performance in this series. They were two of the most important players for Envy.
I think the other part of that growth for Envy is definitely around Nixie in the mid lane here.
Yeah.
People had so many questions surrounding this team, and all the changes that they made in the middle of the season and bringing in this rookie in the mid lane, but he looks completely unfazed by pressure. Like we're talking about these matchups in the playoff games, and he's playing Kog'Maw mid in Game 5 and absolutely just dumping out the damage.
10th to 6th, going to 5 games against the third place team.
It was a performance where I was like, I can't wait to hopefully see them in Gauntlet, and then you realize how the points shake out. That's not going to be the case.
Unfortunately, not the case.
Yeah,
but
their season cut short, but it was a great showing out of them, best you could hope.
A fantastic season out of Envy. Now, we had a lot of great performances today, but we'd like to recognize one player who stood above the rest to earn the Player of the Series honor, and that person was Huhi today. Let's talk about this guy in the mid lane.
It was a tough decision between him and Darshan because both of them were critical in a lot of the different victories, but time and time again, he had these picks that came up really big, switching over the Corki, the Vel'Koz coming out, the Cassiopeia performance. In all their victories, you could track that he was a huge factor in the team fights and the plays to set up the wins.
Yeah, a lot of successful roams, a lot of successful damage in the team fights from the back line. As you said, though, we really have to hammer home that Darshan, honorable mention as well.
Yeah.
He did so much, especially if we go back to the very beginning of the series. For this team.
It's easy to forget Game 1, Game 2, right? Those ones they seem so long ago at this point, but Darshan was absolutely destroying kids on the Gnar, even forcing the pick away and then having the answer. But Huhi here in the mid lane, not having to stretch to the Aurelion Soul today, but it's still finding its way to the ban list, hitting that Vel'Koz, hitting the Corki, even the Victor, so showing that his champion pool is wide and deep, and he has all the tools that they will need in order to move through playoffs. I think the question is the team around him and what whether or not they can get to that point of synergy where they can actually operate as a full 5 and contest against some of these other top teams.
Definitely, because they have some tough opponents ahead of them. Immortals, as they talked about, is going to be a very difficult matchup.
Right.
And Smithy.
You want to talk about a strong bot lane?
Yeah,
There's
I was about
another
to say.
strong bot lane that they're going to have to deal with in Ole and Cody Sun. But enough out of that. We're going to get to that in a bit. Now, throughout the quarterfinals, you took to Twitter to call out the plays that warranted a double take, and so we figured we'd give you a third look for our LCS big plays. Brought to you by Acer. First up, Cannon Fodder mentioned the clutch moves from the Cloud9 ADC in their series yesterday. WTF was that, Sneaky? What a god play. Let's take a look.
Going back and forth with the new flashing games. They're going for the knockback, but Adrian, Altec still saving. Oh, Stinky! Stinky, that was crucial. Knocks him back, he makes it happen. Adrian 1 hit away from death to Todd. That's 3 kills. Absolute perfection from Stinky. How is he still alive?
Watch Sneaky in this fight.
They're immediately going for Altec there. The double flash in, and then Sneaky. Oh, that is one of the most insane plays that I have seen in a playoffs game in North American LCS history.
It's a great call, Kobe. I actually.
So let me say, I did overreact a bit because I was so hyped at the moment.
Yeah,
but it was
a big moment.
But it still was a big play.
Well, and I like some people tried to downplay that, like, oh, you know, it's a triple kill. People reset with Tristana, but like, understand, you're flashing in, you get an auto, or you jump in, get an auto attack, flash the Talia W, get another auto attack, jump away with no stutters. It wasn't like he canceled any autos. He did it all as perfectly as you can make that play. So I do think it was hype.
And it wasn't just the execution. To me, a large part of that play was even just going for it because it's so risky and jumping in like that. You know, 9 times out of 10, somebody's getting flamed super hard.
Oh, yeah.
For going for that play.
Absolutely.
But they had to pull that play to get back in the series.
Very much so. Now, after that, who says Janet doesn't take skill? Zach Cannibal highlighted Adrian's clutch snipe on Sneaky. I can't even be mad about that redemption kill. Let's see this one.
He's spotted out, though. Altec's on the chase. Nowhere to go. Top lane.
Contracts wants to finish off that inhibitor. Sneaky's not going to get out of here. Oh, did he
He outplayed it! He outplayed it! He couldn't get away from Keen. He's trying.
Adrian gets the kill, and now 2v5 on the map.
Twitter. One hit. Oh, please. Nice. Can we end?
Oh, that was brilliant.
Clean.
Yeah, caster cam on that was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
too.
Kobe's clearly having fun this weekend.
They all were.
That
It got
series?
Jat up out of his chair.
That series was really, really fun.
It was both series this
Back and
weekend.
forth.
I mean, we had a 4-game series yesterday, a 5-game series today. I'm hoping that the competition continues. Next up, the Bowl logged in after CLG's huge Baron steal saying, "Oh my God," online. One more time.
Darshon's gonna hit third. 2K taking out if they can. Afro move. Omar go in. Headbutt. He got it! Omar God! Takes the Baron at CLG!
Flash. I pulled Castle. I jumped. Nice.
We are falling apart, bag. We are having so much fun watching all of these
Like,
bags.
caster cams add so much to these.
They do. They really do. There's a whole nother level of exciting when you take a look at the caster cans. But that was a huge play for the rookie in game 1. And let's remember that if that Baron had gone the other way for Envy, we may not even have gotten to a game 5.
I mean, it's a series where, like, Omar God definitely had his downs and why this went the full 5 games, but he also had his ups with that steal. And then in the final game, he had that last when they went for that big play
In
on
the base.
Pookie. Yeah, he was the one who found Niski out and let his team actually win the game. So you do deserve a small tip of the cap for some of his
Right, yeah, we can demerit him every once in a while, but we also have to give him credit where credit is due. Finally, Neon Ace had to point out how much the Envy rookie stepped up in his first postseason. Niski is a god. We'll leave it at that.
Over the wall goes Darshon. They'll find the knockup. This could be trouble. Envy, their top laner taken so incredibly low. They're not quite able to find a 2 kill. 3. You're kidding me. A triple kill for Niski. CLG having to play this one carefully. Lyra going to be bound up. Swift advance, able to find him. Darshon flashing away. But the life disintegration rate doesn't do enough. Who he now going to be chased down? Stixay with the flash forward. Stixay nearly taken out, but instead he might be able to turn this over to him. Niski with the rocket. Oh.
As he's casting the zap and self-rooted, Niski.
Yeah, I was looking for more.
Really lingered on that one. I love it. No, that was great. I love the camera angle on that. You see that evil glare of the Corky rocket.
You wonder if
coming
like
in for the kill.
projectiles could bounce and explode each other.
Right. He had that was all in game 3, but outside of just game 3, of course, the Kog'Maw as well. I think that this guy's growth throughout the split alone has been phenomenal, and I love the aggression that he has, right? The confidence to make plays like this in his rookie split.
Yeah, plus coming into this, from the European Challenger, we're like, okay, he's been playing a lot of these carries in the mid lane and the Syndra and, backline stuff for Cassiopeia. And then he had versatility with the Galio that kind of rounded out some counter engage for them. So he had multiple options.
Yeah, very much so. Now, with the games today, we've got our 2 semifinal matches locked for next week. First up, on Saturday, Immortals face off against Counterlogic Gaming, and then Team Dignitas hope to pull off another upset against our #1 seed in TSM. Gentlemen, looking at these 2 matchups, how are we feeling about them?
Pretty good.
Adrian said that he wanted to play TSM in the semifinals, so he's going to get his shot at that bottom lane. I know he wants to take a crack at it.
Yeah, he's got some confidence.
It's a very interesting matchup just because TSM was not a particularly fast-paced team, and that could, allow Dignitas time to work around this Baron where they seem to have by far the best controls. So this could be one of those weird mismatches where you actually have a lot of advantages for Dignitas.
Very much so. Now, what about on the side of Immortals versus CLG? Without a doubt, Immortals is a strong team, and when we talk about the jungler matchup, sure, Omar God had his hands full with Lyra today, but Smithy is, another person that you can't shake your finger at.
I mean, it seems on paper like a terrible matchup for CLG where they struggled so heavily today in the jungle and support positions, and you're going up against a team which is even better, arguably, in those 2 positions with Ole, a potential MVP candidate, trying his best to abuse Aframu down that bot lane. It seems like a nightmare.
I mean, honestly, both him and Smithy are MVP candidates in their own right, and so, of course, that will be an exciting matchup. CLG has got another week to prepare for that. We've got our 4 teams going to Boston. All that's left is to see you there. Tickets are still on sale, for both our 3rd place match and the finals at the TD Garden. Make sure you book your trips so you can join us as we crown our summer champions. That's going to do it from us here, though, today. So on behalf of myself, the casters, and the entire live broadcast crew, thank you for watching, and stay tuned after the show where Degon, Zyrene, and Kobe will break down our quarterfinals and look forward to semis. Otherwise, I'll see you next week for more NALCS playoffs. Good night.